Oh, yes, of course. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so very much for joining us. Whether you are in the chamber or you're watching online, thank you for being here this evening. If you wouldn't mind taking a moment, taking your phones out and making sure that they are on vibrate or they're turned off, greatly appreciate that. We will all do the same up here. And we will now move into our moment of silence, if you will please join us. Now, if you'll join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll move over to staff questions. Board, do you have any questions for staff at this time? Seeing none, we will now move into public comments, requests, presentations, and I do have a presentation this evening. All right. This evening, we have a life-saving award. On October the 13th of 2022 at 6:10 p.m., officers were dispatched to a suicide attempt where a subject was going through a mental health crisis and attempted to commit suicide by hanging. The victim had locked himself in a detached garage and began to hang himself on the support beam. Officer Garrett, Officer Prendergast, Officer Shaw, and Officer Ortega all arrived on scene at the same time. Fortunately, a resident was able to enter through a window and open the door for the officers. Upon entering, they located the victim actively hanging about 3 feet from the ground. Officer Prendergast and Officer Shaw immediately began lifting the victim up to alleviate the stress on the neck and airway, while Officer Garrett and Officer Ortega cut the victim down and safely placed him on the ground. The victim survived and was transported to a local hospital for evaluation. These officers acted quickly without hesitation, which resulted in the saving of a human life. Their actions during this event should be recognized, and it is recommended that they receive the department's life-saving award. Officers, if you would please join us up front. Chief, you want to say anything?
Just briefly,
Please.
very briefly. I just want to mention, everybody, these life-saving awards are not something that's given out just trivially. It's happened a while back. It takes a long time to go through the exact processes that took place and who's deserving of what award. And, you know, we may be giving 4 of these away tonight, but they're well-earned and very proud. So, also Garrett, step up front so we get some pictures.
And we are going to go up front. This is yours. Officer Prendergast? Officer Taylor. And Officer Shaw. We're now going to go ahead and move into public comment. Melissa Easley. If you wouldn't mind up at the podium. If you wouldn't mind stating your name and address for the record for us, and you have 3 minutes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Melissa Easley. My address is 9414 Misty Arbor Way. If you check Google, it says Huntersville. If you look at the deed of my house, it says Charlotte. So pick whichever one you want. The reason I am here tonight is I actually just want to introduce myself. Again, my name is Melissa Easley, and I am your new CMS School Board rep. And so I wanted to come here tonight to introduce myself, put a face with a name, and just let you know that I am here for you. I look forward to having town halls here, close in the area, so that you can welcome and I can hear your concerns about CMS, because here I am, your voice for all of Huntersville, Cornelius, and Davidson. So I'm very excited to be elected on the board. Just a little bit about me. I'm a former educator. I was an educator for 15 years, 10 of which directly in CMS. So I know it's CMS inside and out, and I'm looking forward to the governing committee and seeing how we can best work as the town of Huntersville, as the community of Huntersville, and as CMS, so that we can move forward to the best of our abilities. So please, my door is always open when I get my door. Until then, my email is always open for you, and right now that email is easleyforcms@gmail.com. So that's pretty easy to remember. I also have a Facebook, Instagram, all the social media as well. So you're welcome to reach out to there if that's easiest for you. But I just wanted to take a minute and introduce myself, put a face with the name, and tell you that I am here for you. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, and we look forward to working with you. Next person who signed up to speak this evening is Mike Murphy. Mr. Murphy, you have 3 minutes, if you wouldn't mind stating your name and address for the record.
Hey, everyone. Mike Murphy. I moved here 12 years ago, originally lived in the apartments next to Birkdale, then owned a townhome in Birkdale. In 2017, I moved to the golf course side. My address is 8514 Brentfield Road. I'm going to read from some prepared comments because I'm pressed for time. I recognize this item has been moved from the agenda, but I'm still here to speak about the rezoning and special use permit request for Birkdale by North American Properties, and urge you all to decline it outright. I was thinking about what to say this evening that hasn't already been said, or I didn't say at the last town meeting. So recently I saw a news story that caught my attention, and I'll just read the headline. South Park Mall reopens after brief shutdown. No shots reported, CMPD says. And while South Park's outside of our bubble, it's only 8 miles away. So I started thinking, let's just search North Lake Mall and then go to the news filter. Here's 5 stories that have occurred in 2022. Here's in October. 1 dead after fight leads to shooting at restaurant near North Lake Mall, police confirm. August 2022, man killed in Saturday morning shooting near North Lake Mall. June, CMPD investigating homicide at apartment complex. So you get the idea, the 4th and 5th stories are very similar. So that sort of thing doesn't happen in Birkdale, does it? It's a quaint village, right? So a couple weeks ago, you can imagine my shock when I was at a dinner party and someone said, hey, did you hear about the carjacking in Birkdale? I said, what are you talking about? You're nuts. No carjackings happened in Burkdale. Couldn't find anything in the local news story, nothing on Facebook. I searched the town website, didn't see any incident reports, so I asked the person that told me, whoever told you this, please introduce me to them. So I spoke to this woman. She wants to remain anonymous because she's a business owner, and she told me that on Saturday, November 5th at 1 p.m., she was walking in the corner of Girl Supply. She saw a vehicle facing the wrong way on the wrong side of traffic with a man frantically trying to get into the passenger door. The car sped off, almost hit her. It happened so fast she could not take a picture of it. She had her phone in her hand, and the car drove into Burkdale, and she knew that because she could hear the aftermarket muffler. She said had her kids been with her, they probably would have been hit. There was a bunch of kids in the area, and she was very uncomfortable, went to her car to decompress, left, police were arriving on the scene. There is a publicly available police report. I forwarded that to all of you in an email. So this sort of thing is shocking to me. So I would just ask us, what kind of community do we want to live in? This does not need to be a partisan issue, but to me it is a political issue at this point. It's a basic safety issue, it's a quality of life issue, and we have this desire for character in our communities, and I don't think you can just build character. Character doesn't come with constant development and redevelopment, and I would ask you all to help force a pause. Let the dust settle and let's focus on infrastructure improvements in the area on a regular basis. I see kids crossing the street on the wrong side of the crosswalk, dodging in between traffic. I can tell you with my family, it does not feel safe to cross the crosswalk from the golf course side into Burkdale, and even being there for the Christmas tree lighting the other day. When I used to live in the townhomes, cars parked everywhere in the townhome communities, but on this year, all of the parking at Summit Coffee and Anisio was taken up. The entire golf course lot was full. You had large groups of people crossing the street, and it just generally feels unsafe. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person who is signed up to speak is Thomas Wright. Mr. Wright, as you make your way, you have 3 minutes, and if you'll state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Thomas Wright. I live at 8203 Strand Hill Road in Burkdale Village. We have lived in Burkdale for 9 years. We've lived in the area for 33 years. I can remember back when we moved here, Exit 28, had, I think, a egg and bacon restaurant, ham and egg, okay, and a Texaco station, I believe. And then, of course, Exit 25 was not even thought of at that time. I'm sure you've already heard a lot of speakers discussing the proposed changes for Burkdale, and many of them that speak tonight are going to have a lot more detail than I do. But I did want to speak in generalities a little bit, and I know there's several factors that's going to affect your decision as far as the Burkdale expansion is concerned. And I know you're having to work with the DOT, and from what I've heard, they're no charm to work with. They're very slow to make decisions. Very few of the members, if any, are elected. So we realize you have to work with that. And we understand that you're concerned about the tax base for the area. That's part of your job, and we understand that too. But I believe that another part of your job is to protect the citizens from events that will very detrimentally affect them individually and the community at large. The traffic situation that will be caused by the NAP expansion is not in the best interest of the homeowners individually or the area in general. And again, I know you will have a lot more detailed information about why we are against this, but it is your job to make this decision. And we understand it's a difficult decision, but I just wanted to point out that there are other reasons for you to make the right decision, which we think is to turn down the proposal as submitted. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person who signed up to speak is Catherine Wright. Ms. Wright, you have 3 minutes, and if you'll state your name and address for the record, please.
Hello, I'm Catherine Wright, and I reside at 8203 Strand Hill Road in Huntersville, and I'm in the Burkdale Village as a homeowner, and that was my husband. And I don't know that I have a whole lot to add beyond what he said, but I just want to thank you for the privilege of speaking to you. I thank you for everything you do and for standing on the fence for us trying to make decisions for our tax base, but also for the people that you represent, and we're grateful for everything you do, and it's a lot of hard work, I understand. So Mayor Bales and commissioners and all of the town board, I just want to acknowledge that we began with the Burkdale Village planning with a little hope and excitement that there was new investment in our village, our commercial village. We just live a couple of blocks off of there. And we liked that they were taking more interest in keeping it cleaner and nicer and everything. So we were kind of excited about all their plans and we're very open. I have to say, though, as time has moved on, there has begun to develop a lot of distrust in Knapp in their ability to pull in the right kind of business that is congruent with our current styles. And also the feeling that communication has been very poor, which builds some distrust in what they're trying to do. As well, we've had a little more time to look at the situation with the infrastructure, and I can remember many freeze frames at 3:09 in the afternoon when I was looking at cars backed up all the way down 73 in both directions, and it took 3 lights to get out of Burkdale Village. And you know, there's something that just kind of glares out at me when this gas leak occurred not so long ago, and we were worried, were we supposed to evacuate or not? Well, it turns out we didn't need to, the one that was over there on Westmoreland. But what if we had needed to? And this was further beyond, and then we're looking at the infrastructure issue that is so hard to even get on the interstate now, right, with all the traffic we have. And I began to worry about, what if we're an evacuation route? Are we going to wait and try to make the ends meet the middle, or are we going to just go gangbusters with these silos of development that are so dense all over the place that all of a sudden we wake up one day and we can't get out of our neighborhoods when there's a disaster? So that's pretty concerning to me. And I just think maybe we just hold off a little more and we move more slowly with this kind of development until we have DOT meet the needs of our infrastructure so that we cannot be in that kind of situation. Thank you for listening to my concerns, and we appreciate you.
Thank you. The next person who is signed up to speak is Suzanne Viller. I hope I've said that correctly. You have 3 minutes, and if you'll state your first and last name and address for the record.
Okay, my first name's Suzanne Villar, V-I-L-L-A-R. I also live in Burkdale Village at 17130 Bridgeton Lane. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk with the council tonight. Excuse me, got my papers out of order. As the town council is aware, North American Properties is seeking approval for a very large expansion within the existing Burkdale Village retail footprint. As you're also aware, residents of the community surrounding Burkdale Village have already expressed serious concerns about this project over current and anticipated worsening traffic, parking, and safety issues. Anyone who was present in Burkdale Saturday afternoon and evening for the Burkdale Village Christmas parade and tree lighting saw firsthand the gridlock that we're concerned about. This was my husband's and I, personal 11th Christmas parade and tree lighting, and we've never seen anything like this before. But what we saw Saturday confirmed our worst fears and the fears of many of our neighbors, specifically that people wanting to park in the village Saturday night had to drive in continuous circles, trying vainly to find a parking spot, eventually backing traffic onto Sam Fur. We've already heard tonight that many people ended up parking on the other side of Sam Fur. It got so bad in the village that Huntersville PD had to direct traffic onto Townley and into our neighborhood to park in order to move cars off of and out of the logjam at Sam Fur. Our son-in-law, who drove in from Davidson via Catawba, reported to us that people were parking in Robbins Park and walking to the village. Cars were parked on both sides of some streets, including Bridgeton Lane, which is one of the widest streets in our neighborhood, making them impossible for anything other than a compact car to drive through. And alleyways that allow us access to our driveways and our homes were blocked by desperate and thoughtless visitors. Had any residents needed to leave the neighborhood to seek medical attention, it would surely have taken much longer than normal due to parking and traffic issues, if it proved even possible to get out at all. Fire engines and ambulances would not have been able to serve many homes, and even Huntersville patrol cars would not have been able to service many addresses. And all of this was without any active construction within Burkdale or on Sam Fur by DOT or across the highway at the driving range in that already permitted new development. So, as many have already said tonight, on behalf of my family, my neighbors, and the welfare of the community as a whole, I'm asking every member of the council to please delay any decision or approval of North American Properties retail expansion project until traffic, parking, safety, and construction coordination problems have been adequately addressed with concrete solutions that North American Properties can fund and control themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person who has signed up to speak, and I do it every time. O'Shaughnessy? I thank you every time. We're going to have to practice, though. Sir, you have 3 minutes if you'll state your name and address for the record.
Nick O'Shaughnessy, 8217 Parkton Gate Drive, the Greens at Birkdale. You know how I feel. You've heard my spiel several times. I don't think I need to repeat it, and you've received emails from me quite frequently. I do have a letter here from a neighbor of mine who could not be here, and with your approval, I would like to read it. He feels strongly, he's up in wherever he lives at a funeral, so he couldn't make it tonight. So he asked me to read this letter, and I hope my eyes can focus adequately. My name is Peter Romanello. I live at 15821 Trenton Place Road. Please note that due to a family emergency, I am not able to attend the meeting tonight, but instead this letter will be read by me on my behalf. Mayor Bales and Town Commissioners, I am a resident of the Greens at Birkdale Village, and I am writing to express my extreme concerns over the proposed building height zoning changes and the overall project scale and scope that is being proposed for the Birkdale Village by NAP. I and many other residents have been attending both town meetings and Birkdale Village community meetings to hear exactly what is being proposed. In doing so, we have found that NAP, specifically their representative, Mr. Tim Perry, has not been transparent and has misrepresented the facts to us in an attempt to sell the project, and has been very dismissive of our major concerns over parking, traffic, and safety. Based on the proposals made by NAP, here is a summary of those concerns. While constructing 2 parking garages with a total capacity of over 900 spaces might sound like a good idea, the reality is that only a fraction of those spaces can be actually used by patrons of Birkdale Village. The parking garage behind the proposed apartment building is specifically for use by the residents/tenants and the proposed hotel. The parking garage behind the proposed office building is dedicated for use by office tenants and employees during the day, Monday through Friday, and only available to patrons of Birkdale Village on nights and weekends. Essentially, the proposed parking improvements will only moderate increases in parking capability and only on nights and weekends. Next to traffic, we all know and understand how difficult it can be to drive through the village as it currently is. The reality is that the traffic entering and exiting the village would be greatly impacted by the improvements. There would be up to 450 cars that would be entering the village in the mornings during the week simply for the office building. These same 450 cars would have to exit the village in the late afternoon during the week. Can I just keep going, please?
I would say in the interest of everyone here, how much more do you have? Let me ask you that question.
I've got that much. I've done like 3/4 of it.
Well, what I would encourage you to do is turn that over to Catherine, and she can get it put into the public record.
Okay,
And
that's
we can do it
basically
that
what he wanted to happen.
way.
So,
Yes.
okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks for your time.
The next person who is signed up to speak is Merlin Viller. Mr. Viller, as you come, you have 3 minutes, and if you'll state your name and address for the record.
Thank you. My name is Merlin Viller. I live at 17130 Bridgeton Lane in the Greens at Birkdale. And I just wanted to give you a thought, maybe from a slightly different angle than some of the things you've heard. But right now, Huntersville has a very successful business park on Reese Boulevard behind the hospital. It's got a lot of room, it's got a lot of parking, it's got a lot of space to expand. It's a beautiful business park. Then why would you even consider allowing North American Properties to build a business park in the front of Birkdale? Because that's what this is. This is an office building and a hotel. They're talking about a conference center. It's something that is totally out of place with the intention of what Birkdale Village was supposed to be. It's no secret also that North American Properties is lusting after the Regal Theater lot. If they buy that, this business park is going to expand there. Business park doesn't belong there. You have a great business park now down, like I said, right off of Gilead. So Birkdale Village is not and never should be considered a business park for expansion. So what is the compelling reason for Huntersville to change the zoning on this to allow this company to build a business park where we live? That's all I have. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you. The next person who is signed up to speak is Kim Zarzad. I'm gonna mess. I'm sorry. Zarzidius. Thank you.
My name is Kim Zarzadius. My address is 17303 Inglewood Lane in Huntersville in Birkdale Village. I've spoken before. I just want to say thank you for listening to us, and I also want to say that I do understand why North American Properties wants to add to Birkdale Village. They need more foot traffic to make it successful, and we all want it to be successful. What they're proposing with the high buildings and not adding the infrastructure just seems like too much. I've been a resident of Birkdale Village, was one of the original ones. I've lived there for 23 years. And I know that Birkdale Village was used as a model for many other mixed-use properties around the country, around the world. And now here we are going to model ourselves after another mixed-use property in Alpharetta, Georgia, that supposedly is very successful, but we've read some reviews that show us that it's not as desirable as we're being told it is. I'm just asking you all to consider this jewel that we have in our neighborhood. And I feel like a lot of us are older people. We have all this nostalgia of what used to be. I like change. And I have a 24-year-old daughter who, when she finishes grad school, I think she'll come back here to live, and she wants to live in Birkdale Village, and she's the future. And I don't think that she really is, she's not happy with what's being proposed. It's not Birkdale Village. I just think that we can do better. This is going to be a 10-year-long project. How do we know what they're proposing right now that's in Alpharetta, Georgia, is going to be what in 10 years we need? I think we need to press North American Properties to be more forward-thinking. And I don't think that extra traffic, I think it's just going to drive people away. So.
Thank you. The next person who signed up to speak is Tammy Davis. Ms. Davis, as you come, you have 3 minutes, and if you'll state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Tammy Davis. I live at 17114 Bridgeton Lane. I'm just going to read what I have. My name is Tammy Davis, and I've been in Burkdale Village for 21 years. My house was built during the first phase of construction. I guess you could say I lived through the entire birth of this community that I call home. To say that we have loved it here would be a complete understatement. In fact, over the last 13 years, we've added 3 children and 1,500 square feet to our home so that it would accommodate our growing family. Burkdale Village has provided us not only a lifestyle we love, but a strong sense of community and family. When we walk into just about any restaurant or store, we are all addressed by name. This type of community is not commonplace. It is unique, but it is also fragile. I would feel remiss if I did not speak up today and try with every ounce of my being to protect what I hold so dear. A little over a year ago, this special community, which I will admit was in need of repair and updating, was bought by a company that I trusted wholeheartedly. I joined in on many of the preliminary meetings and drank the Kool-Aid, as did many of my neighbors and friends. When I heard they were going to create a new stage, the buildings were going to be repainted and repaired, and the storefronts were going to be spruced up, I was thrilled. Looking back now, it is easy to decipher that we were fed a healthy dose of word manipulation to get us to fall in line like sheep to Knapp's greater agenda. Little by little, Mr. Perry started to uncover his ultimate plan, which was to outbuild and overpopulate Burkdale Village. His tone shifted from, "We consider you all our partners," to an arrogant, domineering, unapologetic opportunist. In fact, at the last meeting I attended, I expressed my concern for the overcrowded streets and the people that were now starting to park in front of my house, which I feel is very invasive. His exact words to me were, "Maybe you should go move on a farm somewhere." That was absolutely unconscionable, demeaning. For the last 21 years, I have made my life here. I've planted my roots here, and my voice matters. Navigating Burkdale Village is already a complete nightmare. I have to tack on 10-minute buffer to any place I have to go. I notice more and more people dropping off their teens and tweens to come here and hang out. I am a woman in her early 40s with 3 kids. I am a mega spender in Burkdale Village. I fit the demographic that helps keep Burkdale thriving. But I am finding it less appealing to shop, especially on weekends, as I don't want to endure mobs of obnoxious, vulgar teens that use this space as their new mall and their meetup place. Tim Perry has been asked many times, by myself included, how he plans to handle security, parking, gridlock, and traffic. But just like the great and powerful Oz, he hides behind the green curtain and uses his magical bait and switch tactics. In closing, no, Mr. Perry, I'm not going to take your unsolicited advice and move to a farm, nor am I going to hide under a rock because some corporate suits in a glass tower think they can bully this community into building what they think is beneficial to us all. The only people who will benefit from this
you, Ms.
monstrosity
Davis.
is Tim Perry, his counterparts, by adding to their portfolios and their wallets. And I am asking you all sitting up there today to please hear my
Thank you,
voice
Ms.
and be my
Davis.
voice. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person who has signed up to speak is Marianne Turetsky. Ma'am, you've got 3 minutes. If you'll state your name and address for the record, please.
Okay, my name is Marianne Turetsky, 16927 Birkdale Commons Parkway. I live in the apartment in Birkdale. I've lived there for 3 years. The first year I signed a new lease, the original owners raised my rent $50. Last year, Knapp raised my rent $300. My neighbors across the hall have moved out in the summer. The boy upstairs in his early 30s is moving out because his rent is going up $400. The saddest of all my neighbors is my friend Margie, whose husband had a stroke, and last Christmas Eve, they called her and told her she had 4 weeks to get out of the apartment because they want to renovate. Her husband was a security guard at Birkdale, so many of the employees knew Lee and begged Knapp to let them stay. They stayed, but they raised their rent $700. They're going to move now, as he is in hospice, to the Birkdale apartments across Samford Road, which will be $600 less in rent for them. The shop owner, Nina, who owns a dress store, is not getting her lease renewed because Tim said he only wants high-end stores like J. Jill and Lululemon. Nina is the sole support of her family. Her husband is dying of cancer. The corkscrew isn't being renewed either because Tim doesn't want any competition for his beer garden. The corkscrew was in our village since its inception. Red Rocks has been told that they need an $800,000 reno to stay in that place. East has already met their renovations of $1 million. Dressler's is on the bubble, they haven't decided. Tim is only catering to high-end shops, and he wants to move people like me and my neighbors out. He just wants dinks, which are the dual income, no kids, millennials in there now. Knapp wants to recoup their investment and doesn't care who they step on or throw away in the process. They are not improving Birkdale, as they want everybody to believe. They are pushing us out one by one to continue their grand scheme and see it come to fruition. Please help us, and don't let them do that to us. We don't deserve that. I'm a widow, I'm 75, and I just need a place to live, and I was very happy and felt safe in Birkdale. My grandchildren live 400 feet away in a home, and I was happy there, and now they want me to move out. They're giving me 2 months, and they said I can come back in 2 months at a rent increase. After I move all my furniture out, my clothes, go find a place to live for 2 months, and then they'll allow me to come back at an increase. Not fair. They're pushing everybody out. So please help us. Thank you.
Thank you. The last person who signed up to speak this evening is Dawn Snow. Ms. Snow, as you come, you have 3 minutes, and if you'll state your name and address for the record, greatly appreciated.
Name's Dawn Snow at 8132 Evanston Falls Road, Huntersville. I live in Birkdale Village, of course. And as you're aware, there was a big event in Birkdale Village on Saturday with Santa and the tree lighting. The new owners of Birkdale Village, NAP, have made it clear that they intend to host and bring in many other events like this throughout the year with huge crowds of people. With the proposed rezoning, the crowds will certainly be even larger than what we have seen already. These new owners are creating a safety hazard for our once quaint village and neighborhood and turning it into an overdeveloped outdoor mall, which is negatively affecting us. Hopefully you viewed the videos I emailed the board to show what our neighborhood experienced on Saturday with the inadequate parking. Unfortunately, this is predictive of what our neighborhood will face on a regular basis if the town chooses to approve this rezoning, as the parking will still be grossly inadequate, especially during any type of events. The new owners do not seem to care about the impact their greed has on our quality of life or safety. So we need you to step up and put a stop to this insanity. On Saturday, there was nowhere for people to park, so they were parking all along our narrow neighborhood streets, in front of houses, and behind alleyways, and they were parking on both sides of the streets, making them impassable and dangerous as shown in the videos. I would hate to think what would happen if there was a fire or if first responders needed to get to any of the homes on these streets. With no regards to the residents now, I can't even imagine what their plans will do to our property values. Who is going to want to live here when they can barely get to their house? Here are some of the comments from about the situation on Saturday from Facebook. Comment 1, what a hot mess. How does any emergency truck, fire, ambulance get through? Comment 2, I have never seen Birkdale as crowded as it was tonight. The traffic was at a standstill, crazy. Comment 3, it was insane. I was Uber driving and the cars were parked along streets, almost to Robbins Park. I could barely get through. The streets aren't wide enough in your neighborhood for all the cars parked in there. Comment 4, Huntersville police were directing traffic into our neighborhood down Townley as soon as they came into Birkdale. They had the road blocked on the parkway at Townley between Banana Republic and Talbot's. 2 police officers with their 2 cars blocking the center of the parkway were directing all traffic into our neighborhood down Townley. Comment 5, the people crossing Samford in the dark, pushing strollers and carrying babies was ridiculous. There was nowhere to park as far away as Firebirds or the golf course. I hate to say this, but I predict a pedestrian tragedy there. Birkdale is now a safety hazard. Comment 6, I don't understand how people can park in front of other people's homes when you don't live with live there are visiting them. Pretty rude. What if a fire truck had to get through there? And in closing, I will say that this is not unique to Burkdale because it's modeled after Avalon. And if you read the reviews from Avalon, you'll see that they have the very same problems with parking. So please consider all of this.
Thank you very much, Ms. Snow. We are now going to move to agenda changes. Are there any agenda changes this evening? Commissioner Boone?
Yes, ma'am, I'd like to move item 8F, as in Frank, from the consent agenda to other business, 10F. 10E, I apologize.
8F to 10E.
Second.
There's a motion, and there is a second. All those in favor? None opposed. We're going to take just a brief moment as people leave. That way we can continue with business. Thank you all for coming this evening. Okay, so we have made some agenda changes. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
Motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
Second.
There's a motion and there is a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, we'll move to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Kidwell. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none. We do not have any public hearings on the docket this evening, but we will move into other business. Item 10A, consider a decision on petition TA 22-06, a request by DDRTC, Burkdale Village.
Hi.
Hi.
Brian Richards for the staff. We gave Nathan the night off tonight. The applicant, North American Properties, has requested a deferral to the January 17th meeting for the text amendment. I'm here if you guys have any questions.
Commissioner Boone.
Motion to defer the decision of petition TA 22-06 to January 17th, 2023 at 6 p.m. at the Town Hall located at 101 Huntersville Concord Road as requested by the applicant.
Second.
There's a motion. There is a second. All those in favor? None opposed. Motion passes to item 10B, petition R22-01, defer to January 17th. Mr. Richards?
Yes. Hi, still me. And the applicant again has requested that the rezoning hearing be pushed to the January 17th, 2023 board hearing.
Commissioner Boone?
Motion to defer the decision of petition TA 22-01 to January 17th, 2023 at 6 p.m. at the Town Hall located at 101 Huntersville Concord Road as requested by the applicant.
Mr. Boone, would that be rezoning 2201?
Yeah.
R22. Thank you very much.
No worries.
R2201?
Second.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Phillips. All those in favor? None opposed. Item 10C. This is petition R22-03, rezoning request by Alan Spraggins of Hawthorne Devco. Mr. James, how are you this evening?
Well, it's my first presentation to you all.
Yes, it is.
I am Jesse James, and I'm presenting this item, R2203. So this is going through public hearing and planning board. There's been basically three items of discussion, one being the sidewalk connection. Sorry, please enter the staff report into record. Forgot to do that. The first item of discussion is the sidewalk connection along Cane Branch Way. The applicant has added that connection from Cane Branch Way through the development, as you see on the site plan. The second item of discussion brought up at the planning board was the addition of the second row of street trees along April Mist Trail. That has been added to add a more added buffer to that street yard there. And then the third item of discussion was the retention pond for access for maintenance, and that has been shown on the new site plan for access. As far as the consistency statement goes, the planning board does recommend approval of this rezoning. The planning board approved unanimously 7-0, and I am here for any questions if you have some.
Is there a motion on this one, Commissioner Partee?
Thank you, Mayor. In considering the proposed rezoning application, R22-03, Huntersville Retirement Residence, the Town Board of Commissioners recommend approval based on the plan being consistent with the Huntersville 2040 Community Plan Policies, LU.1, 10.5, EOS-6, and PS-5.1, as well as the design recommendations within the Beatties-Ford Road Corridor Small Area Plan. Although this project does not provide the mix of land uses detailed in Policy LU-6, by removing commercial uses in this active center, it does diversify the housing options, and further, it is reasonable and in the public interest to approve the rezoning plan because it is consistent with the envisioned future land use of the area by adding a diversity of housing to the neighborhood while matching the current landscape of the area. The recommendation for approval is contingent upon the applicant successfully addressing all outstanding staff comments, including but not limited to adding the double row of street trees along April Mist Trail.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
Question for Emily. Do we need to include in this motion with the ponds and all of that as well? Or is this all-encompassing, just trying to be more careful?
Yes, he said all of the outstanding comments, and based on Jesse's report, it sounds like they already have been addressed in the updated plans.
Great. Second.
There is a motion and there is a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll now move to item 10D. Jesse, thank you so very much this evening. Petition TA 22-07 is Senate Bill 105 text amendment. Ms. Mullins, how are you this evening?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you for joining us.
Yes, it's great to see you all. I will be presenting TA 2207 and would like to enter my staff report into the record. The purpose of the text amendment is to amend the town zoning ordinance to comply with Senate Bill 105 to limit harmony requirements for development on parcels where multifamily structures are an allowable use and the development contains 2 or more affordable housing units for families or individuals with incomes below 80% of the area median income. Here's an example of the harmony requirements under the general requirements for the NR zoning district, and you can see where the amendment language would be added. And under general requirements, so D1, A, and B, those would be the harmony requirements. Here's an example of the harmony requirements in the architectural standards for the apartment building type, and you can see here where the language will be added. And under the architectural standards, A, B, C, and D are all harmony or compatibility standards. If a development containing multifamily dwellings elected to include 2 or more affordable housing units below 80% of the area median income, it would not be subject to harmony requirements, and this would be noted on the approved development plans. The town would not be responsible for managing the units, but if it was found that a development was not in compliance, the town could take code enforcement measures. Planning staff is concerned about the impact of this amendment, but recommends approval of the text amendment as written to comply with state legislature. The Huntersville Ordinances Advisory Board recommended approval on September 1st. The public hearing was held October 3rd with no comment. The planning board recommended approval October 25th. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Is there a motion? Commissioner Boone?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to put a motion on the table to just open the discussion on this item. Motion to approve petition TA 22-07 based on the amendment being consistent with all the policies of the Huntersville Community 2040 Plan as amended is necessary to comply with the state legislature. It is reasonable and in the public interest to amend the zoning because it is necessary to coordinate the Huntersville zoning ordinance to comply with the state legislature.
There's a motion. Is there a second? There is a second. We'll now open it up for discussion.
Madam Mayor, since I made the motion, this is one of these things that I don't feel real comfortable about it because there's really not a lot of definitions for words in this, but I feel that it's something that we have to do because it's coming down from the state. But saying that, everything coming down from the state doesn't actually make it good for the town of Huntersville, but I believe it would be the law that we have to follow. So those are my comments.
And that is one of the reasons, Commissioner Boone, we have it on our legislative agenda to work with the General Assembly for that very reason. Thank you. I thought that was well said. Commissioner Kidwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, and we talked a little bit about this at the public hearing. The state continues to throw things down this way without true clarification. They say units. What's that mean? 1, 2, 10, 20, 30? They have no clue. They don't pay attention. I think this is an opportunity for the town to actually throw something back at the state and put a percentage on it and make them do their homework, make them actually go back at this bill if they so choose. They may say whatever. They may not come at us. They may, come back and say you can't do that, and then we could argue the point, well, you didn't really give us clear definition. I personally, if the motion was amended to say 10% of the units have to be for affordable housing to meet the Harmony, or not meet the Harmony requirements, and mixed across unit size. So, let's say it's a 300-room apartment complex. I would like to say percentage of that 10% equally between 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms to give a better opportunity for those at the 80% the chance. That's where I'm at. And I appreciate town attorney sending an email today. And I appreciate her stance on that, her information on that, with that. I think this is just one of those things, one of these items, where we have to push back, and we have to force the state to start paying more attention to things they're putting in their bills, so they know that it's impacting not just our community. And as I spoke to a mayor of another community, he had to bring in he brought in his head planning guy. He's like, I don't get this. He goes, there's no numbers. Well, yeah, there's throw out units. They make it plural. That gives us a lot of leeway, I think. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Commissioner Kovacs.
I'm on the same wavelength. I appreciate you bringing up it being equally spread across the number of bedrooms in the apartment, because I think that's really important. But when I read units, I just read it as open to interpretation, and I would rather start off with a percentage, and then if the state told us that it wasn't appropriate to do that, we could go back, rather than having projects come in, get approved, and one apartment be put in that's affordable housing. This is our chance to get something back for our community. and help speak for them. So I agree with the idea of a percentage around, I think, around 10%.
If I may, Madam Mayor, I just wanted to address the commentary that I've heard from two of the commissioners. I did want to clarify that it wouldn't be necessarily the state or General Assembly coming back and telling us that we cannot do this. It would rather be a developer suing us and taking us to court, and the court then making a judicial interpretation that we could not have that in our ordinance.
Commissioner
So, yes, Madam Mayor. If that's the case, I mean, I welcome that. I welcome the verbiage to go in front of a judge and make a decision that says the state didn't do their job, so the town had to take action and come up with a number.
Commissioner Phillips?
Oh my gosh. I don't like Dillon Rule State stuff. I think it's all a joke. I think it's a joke to hide stuff in other bills.
Yes.
I also don't want the town of Huntersville to get sued and our taxpayers have to pay for that. Davidson's gotten a little reckless in some of what they've done. They're now getting sued by Lennar. They got in trouble for their tree save, I do believe. So watching them do what they're doing, it's not our money, it's the taxpayers' dollars, and what I'm very concerned about is us tying ourselves up in litigation, and then we can't advocate to the General Assembly in the future. I prefer going to Raleigh and taking a chance and talking face-to-face with these people, because we have made moves, otherwise we wouldn't have magistrates. So the face-to-face matters. I hate this because it's not fair to us. But I just don't want to put ourselves in a mess that we can't walk out of. Because even though Munger is not here, he loves to say the only person who wins in a lawsuit are the attorneys. So that's that, I guess. And for what it's worth, even though he's not here, he said we have only people who win are attorneys.
Commissioner Partee, do you have anything to add to this conversation?
I think our town attorney pretty much covered it, because I had made a note prior to coming into the meeting today regarding, on the part of officials like ourselves, elected officials, I think it's political overreach to lock in developers to a certain number, when in fact the statute does specifically state 2 or more, and that leaves it up to the developer. I mean, if they're compassionate enough to know that they can give or build affordable housing, I think it's more or less up to them. So I will leave it there.
And just as a point of clarification, it does not say specifically 2 or more, but in discussing with the subject matter experts at the UNC School of Government, they had actually made the comment that a court could interpret it as 1 even. And so we had decided, because the word units with an S is plural, that it needed to be at least 2. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Commissioner Phillips?
Is units a legal term of measurement?
No.
Madam, I mean,
Commissioner Kidwell?
it's comical to think that, you know, the legislative body up there, who has many, many learned individuals, many who practice law, would use a term that's not legal, and then expect, and we have to think about this, let's, you know, are we going to then accept what they've sent us down here with a term that's really not applicable without true definition? You know, this is going to change, this will change if passed, and we just leave it as units and we don't put a percentage in it. A developer who's spending their money and they're buying property and they have that right can come in and say, yeah, I'm going to put 2 units in my 300 apartment home complex here, and I'm adding another 280 townhomes on top, but I'm going to have 2 units, because it says units and +1, plural, of affordable housing. and you can take your harmony and building principles for the town of Huntersville, and you can just keep them in your pocket.
Commissioner Phillips?
I was going to ask does this have to be done today? Can we defer it, talk to our representatives in Raleigh? I mean, I know some, like, ours are going to be sworn back in, so that's not an issue. But I don't know what the best practical route or suggestions, Anthony. I mean, y'all are the professionals. Throw us some bones here, please.
So I'll just say that the statute is already effective, and we make best efforts to update our ordinances as quickly as possible once that legislative change becomes effective.
So even if we haven't adopted this because we are a Dillon Rules state, that trumps whatever we're doing right now, correct?
So the fact is that the statute itself would trump our local ordinance, even if we did not have this in there.
So this is just a formality.
Exactly.
Mr. Roberts, did you?
No, I was just going to say, we don't have to adopt it tonight if you don't want to. I mean, it's already a law, and so if you want to try to work with our delegates and try to make some changes, obviously it takes them forever to go through that process. So up to y'all.
Well, it would make sense to work. I'm sorry, Commissioner.
And the only other thing I would add, I'm sorry, is that I would suggest going ahead and doing it to include some parameters in our ordinance so that a developer does not come and try to argue that one unit is sufficient. You at least are giving planning staff parameters to work with.
Commissioner Kovacs.
So when we're talking affordable housing, does that mean that they can have less rent to allow the person that does the upkeep to live there, or like would that qualify, or a police officer to live there at a smaller rate? Or
No,
is
it would have to be incomes below 80% of the area median income.
So there is a motion on the table, unless there is additional discussion. And Commissioner Boone, I believe your motion was to adopt as presented. Correct.
That's correct, Madam Mayor. This is, I think, one of these things that I'm going to have to vote for it, but I'll be holding my nose doing it.
Well, regardless of the vote, we need to be doing our work with our delegation in Raleigh on this topic. So there is a motion, there is a second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion passes. It is 3-2.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you. The next item is item 10E, and that is to adopt the 2023 Town Board regular meeting schedule, so for the next year. Mr. Roberts, did you have anything to add to this one?
Nope, I think Janet put it together on the date you see before you, but I really don't have anything to add.
Okay, Commissioner Boone?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I was looking at the meeting dates, and a year from today is Thanksgiving week, just like we have a Independence Week and Christmas week. I think it would be a good time to cancel for just 1 year, just to see how it works out for 2023, to see how it works out as far as the workload. But I think it's time that we start looking at the town employees and their workload and let them enjoy the time with their family during the Thanksgiving holiday. And with that, I would make a motion to cancel the second meeting of November 2023 only.
Second.
There is a motion, and there is a second. Any discussion? I think the only thing that I would say, and I'm just throwing it out there, not that could care one way or the other, but for discussion's sake, is that second meeting in July. You know, many municipalities across the state, the boards do not meet the month of July. And part of that has to do with the fact that staff and board members with summer breaks, and they're traveling and they're in and out. So I thought I'd throw that out there for discussion and for your thoughts regarding July meetings.
Of order, I believe that we have a motion and a second.
We do, but we're in discussion,
With a-
so I threw something else out there
With a specific-
during discussion. Okay, so seeing no discussion, there's a motion, there is a second. All those in favor? And none opposed. Motion carries. So we will not meet the second meeting of November in 2023. We'll now move to mayor and commissioner reports. I do have a couple of things. First and foremost, I wanted to thank everyone who came out for the Veterans Day Parade and ceremony, who came out and lined the streets, participated, built those floats, came out and just, it was such a wonderful Saturday, and I wanted to thank everyone for that. But then also a huge thank you to the American Legion for all of their work, and what a lovely ceremony that was. So well done to staff who made that happen. My EDC report, last week, we hosted the Journey 360 program, and we took students from Huff, Hopewell, and North Mech to 3 different advanced manufacturing sites in addition to CPCC. They got a 360 tour of each facility. So they talked with finance, human resources, they talked with production, they talked with sales and service. They really got that 360 view of what it looked like underneath that roof of that building. And then they went to CPCC, and I have to tell you, they toured Forbo, they toured Keller Technologies, and they toured Southwire. And they were just in awe and impressed with the businesses that are located here, and they were asking if they were hiring, and yes, they are hiring. So even if you're not a high school student, if you're watching and you're looking to change jobs or you're looking for a job, those businesses are hiring right now. Under the EDC, they are also in the process of hiring, interviewing for Haley Neasley's job, that position at the EDC. So just be aware of that. Haley left the EDC about a month and a half ago. And so they are looking for a new person on staff. At the MTC, we were given an update on the Charlotte Transit Center's redevelopment in their public engagement update. And last but not least, I will let all of you know, I met last week with our new school board member, Melissa Easley, who came this evening, and she is gung-ho and ready to go, and working with not only Huntersville, but Cornelius and Davidson and our families to represent us well on the CMS board. So look forward to working with her in the future as well. With that, Commissioner Phillips, you have a report for us this evening.
No updates.
Commissioner Boone? Commissioner Kovacs?
Yes. Tomorrow, Tuesday, November 22nd, noon to 1:15 is the Diversity Council panel discussion for the Lake Norman Chamber of Commerce. You can join via Zoom, get information on the website. Thursday, December 4th is the quarterly nonprofit roundtable meeting hosted by and held at Ada Jenkins Center in Davidson. And this purpose of the get-together is attended by 30-plus area nonprofits, is just to keep each other informed of needs, programming, and events. This is also an open meeting. Tuesday, December 6th, chamber member orientation networking event for those new or looking to join the Lake Norman Chamber of Commerce. And
Thursday, December 8th, from 5:30 to 7 p.m. is the annual holiday after-hours Macintosh Law Firm in Davidson, hosted by Brick House Tavern, Bookman, Bright, and Macintosh Law Firm. So we hope to see you there. And if you have any other questions, you can not speak to me, apparently. You can go on the chamber website, or you can reach out to me, and I can get you some answers.
Thank you, Commissioner Kovacs. Commissioner Kidwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We had CRTPO last week, and Mayor Bells joined us in the audience. Appreciate that. We had a good meeting. 2 items passed, nothing that really affects Huntersville. Lots of discussion on a few other things coming down the line, including further discussion about the managed lane project, South 77. Chairman Pappas gave I would say, an appropriate speech on how we have to look at the project and not the fact that it is Centra who is the unsolicited bid. And as I appreciated his, asking us to look at the project as a whole, it's hard to swallow that when you come from up here and you've got a company that is in litigation across the state lines because they lost the project. And just the turnout, how this turned out up here, and also the fact that the last news report I saw is they are willing to enter into litigation with people who cause accidents for lost income. So you get an accident on 77, block a lane, they could sue you. I also attended the Beyond 77 mobilization prioritization meeting today, and it's a task force that I belong to through CRTPO, where we're looking at what can we do as a region beyond 77, and looking at side roads, looking at other mobility, looking at public partnerships, private partnerships, equitable plans. And one thing I brought up today in my little cubby that we were separated into, I said, we spend an awful lot of time at CRTPO. We talk about 77, we talk about 485, we talk about Independence down in Charlotte, but we never talk about 85. 85 moves more traffic and more freight through this region than any other road. And there is some boondoggles on 85. And as we talk about beyond 77, it has to be discussed, what can we do to help improve 85 in the region, especially at some of these interchanges off of 485 and 77 to help traffic move. And that is it. There will be no meeting in December. And that's all I have for now.
Very good, thank you. That's interesting. Commissioner Partee?
Thank you, Mayor. I have no report, but I want to say happy Thanksgiving to all my fellow commissioners, town staff, and all the residents present and watching on social media. And as always, if you can give to the nonprofit organization named Cool Kids Clubhouse in honor of Dan Jensen, it'll be appreciated. Thank you.
Well, the last thing I would like to say is to everyone here and those watching, and frankly, those who aren't, happy Thanksgiving, because it is a wonderful time for us to stop and reflect on all of the blessings that we have experienced over this last year. And the truth is there's always adversity, but it's our outlook and how we handle it that we can truly be thankful for. Anyone else like to say a few closing comments? Commissioner Kovacs?
Happy Thanksgiving, of course. I hope everyone enjoys the time with their families. And if you don't have anywhere to go, let me know and you can come meet with us. But I also wanted to point out my awesome new shirt, which was purchased across the street from Town Hall at Elizabeth Steel. When they were talking about the Elizabeth Steel Boutique, they were talking about opening up and what kind of products they wanted. And there were a whole bunch of residents that said, we want Huntersville stuff, which was awesome to see. And then when I went in the other day, they had shirts. So I just love being able to walk around and just represent the place that we love. So if anyone's interested, they're
across the street at one of our downtown businesses.
Is there a motion? Motion to adjourn. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor? Happy Thanksgiving and, yes, and good night.